Can I actually thank him for raising with me what I said in an episode of Any Questions last week, so I can be absolutely clear with the House today, especially to the victims and survivors of child sexual abuse and grooming gangs, that I am very sorry for those remarks, as I made clear over the weekend. I and every member of this government want your truth to be heard, wherever that truth leads. Your truly appalling experiences need to be acted on, for those responsible to be accountable and face the full force of the law, and for justice to be served. I would never want, Mr. Speaker, to leave the impression that these very serious, profound and far-reaching issues, which I have campaigned on for many years, should be shied away from and not aired. Far from it. No stone will be left unturned. And what the victims want, first and foremost, is for action to be taken and for the many, many recommendations from the previous inquiries to be implemented in full, including mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse, something I have called for nearly a decade. Shockingly, these recommendations remained sitting on the shelf until we came into government last year. Baroness Louise Casey, who conducted the no-hold-bars inquiry into Rotherham, is carrying out an audit on the scale, nature and characteristics of grooming gangs. She will be reporting soon. And this will include the questions of ethnicity as well. Every police force in England and Wales has been asked to look again at historic grooming gangs cases, and they will be reopened where it is appropriate to get perpetrators behind bars. So I hope the House is left in no doubt, Mr. Speaker, of my commitment to these issues and my apology to those victims for any distress I have caused them.
Labour MP Lucy Powell has issued a public apology after facing a fierce backlash over her controversial remarks relating to Pakistani grooming gangs, an issue that has long stirred emotional and political tensions in the UK. "I am very sorry for those remarks," Powell stated in a carefully worded address to constituents and the press, acknowledging the pain caused and pledging to listen and learn. But for many critics, Powell's mea culpa came far too late, and only under pressure. Her comments, described as appalling and revealing by opponents and community leaders, have reignited a volatile national debate about race, accountability, and the perceived political silence surrounding grooming gang crimes. The controversy stems from a recent interview in which Powell appeared to downplay or deflect attention from the ethnic and cultural backgrounds of perpetrators involved in a series of high-profile child exploitation scandals across towns like Rotherham, Rochdale, and Telford. Although she later clarified her intention was to avoid generalizations, critics say the damage was done. "It's not about inflaming tensions. It's about telling the truth," said one victim's advocate, who accused Powell of political cowardice for framing the issue in terms of narrative sensitivity rather than victims' justice. The backlash has been swift and unforgiving. Right-leaning commentators accused Powell of articulating what many in Labour actually believe but dare not say, painting the apology as nothing more than political triage. "She's not sorry for what she said. She's sorry it was heard," wrote one columnist. The controversy stems from a recent interview in which Powell appeared to downplay or deflect attention from the ethnic and cultural backgrounds of perpetrators involved in a series of high-profile teenagers' exploitation scandals across towns like Rotherham, Rochdale, and Telford. Although she later clarified her intention was to avoid generalizations, critics say the damage was done. "It's not about inflaming tensions. It's about telling the truth," said one victim's advocate, who accused Powell of political cowardice for framing the issue in terms of narrative sensitivity rather than victims' justice. The backlash has been swift and unforgiving. Right-leaning commentators accused Powell of articulating what many in Labour actually believe but dare not say, painting the apology as nothing more than political triage. "She's not sorry for what she said. She's sorry it was heard," wrote one columnist. Powell's apology has done little to stem the tide of criticism. Members of the public, victims' families, and even some within Labour's own ranks are now calling for her resignation. Apologizing won't be enough, said Reform UK leader Richard Tice. Lucy Powell should do the decent thing and step down. Her comments betray a deeper rot in Labour's priorities, a discomfort with facing hard truths when they don't align with progressive narrative. Senior Labour officials have remained largely silent, perhaps wary of further inflaming the situation. Keir Starmer's office issued a short statement saying he welcomes Lucy's apology, but offered no further comment on disciplinary action. Critics have taken that silence as complicity, or worse, confirmation of a long-standing accusation that Labour has tiptoed around issues of cultural sensitivity to preserve community voting bloc. The incident arrives at a moment when immigration, identity, and crime are once again dominating political discourse in Britain. With Reform UK surging in the polls and the Conservatives doubling down on tough on-crime rhetoric, Labour is under renewed pressure to assert moral clarity without alienating key demographic bases. Powell's blunder, critics argue, underscores a deeper problem in Labour's messaging, a reluctance to confront uncomfortable cultural realities for fear of being smeared as intolerant.
We've agreed the basis of a historic economic prosperity deal. And that is a deal that will protect British businesses and save thousands of jobs in Britain. Really important, skilled, well-paid jobs. It will remove tariffs on British steel and aluminium, reducing them to zero. It will provide vital assurances for our life sciences sector, so important to our economy, and grant unprecedented market access for British farmers without compromising our high standards. And for the great British cars that you make here, that we see all around us, this deal means that the US tariffs will now be cut from 27.5% down to 10% for 100,000 vehicles every year. That's a huge and important reduction. And I know from when I was last here, how much that will have been weighing on your minds when you knew the size of the tariff that would otherwise be in place. And to get that decrease was hugely important to me. And I can tell you, my teams were working really hard on this deal, night and day for weeks. I was working with them. And in politics, what matters sometimes is who you have in your mind's eye when you're making these deals. Who do you have in your mind's eye when you're taking decisions? And what I took away from here last time was you and the brilliant work that you do, and had you in my mind's eye as we did that.
In a landmark announcement from Downing Street this morning, Prime Minister Keir Starmer revealed that the United Kingdom and the United States have agreed the basis of a historic economic prosperity deal, a long-anticipated UK-EU trade agreement that Starmer claims will protect British businesses and save thousands of jobs in Britain. The deal, described by government sources as the most significant post-Brexit trade development yet, aims to deepen economic ties with Washington after years of stalled negotiations under previous Conservative administrations. Starmer, standing before Union Jacks and flanked by economic advisors, framed the agreement as a victory for working people and a moment of national renewal. "This is about putting British industry first," the Prime Minister said. "It's about ensuring that our steel workers, our manufacturers, our farmers, and our tech pioneers have access to the markets and protections they need to thrive in a competitive global economy." Sources close to the negotiation team claim the agreement avoids some of the more controversial elements proposed in earlier iterations, including deregulation of food standards or large-scale NATES access. Starmer's team has emphasized that chlorinated chicken is off the table and that British sovereignty remains intact. Starmer's announcement marks a significant geopolitical shift, signaling that his administration intends to lean more heavily into transatlantic cooperation at a time of global economic volatility and Chinese expansion. It also distances Labour from the more isolationist currents of recent years, instead portraying Britain as a modern, rule-based trading nation with global ambitions. Despite the skepticism, the announcement gives Starmer a much-needed political win. With economic growth sluggish and voter patience thinning, the trade agreement allows him to present a proactive agenda rooted in economic pragmatism and post-Brexit renewal. It also provides Labour with ammunition against conservative claims that only the right could manage Britain's international trade relationships. It's a sign Labour can govern globally and domestically at the same time, one senior advisor said. We've turned the page on Brexit chaos and are now writing a story of economic stability. Yet the question remains, can this deal deliver on its lofty promises? With elections on the horizon and global markets on edge, much will depend on implementation, enforcement, and the political winds in Washington, especially with uncertainty around the 2024 US presidential outcome still reverberating through diplomatic circles.